one of the things that I've covered with him over the years before even the October 7th attack was some of his work to fight anti-Semitism. We did a story together at the Shoah Foundation at USC, which is Spielberg's organization, which is documenting the stories of Holocaust survivors, and I introduced him to some of the work there and profiled some of that there, and I've done profiles with him on his work on elevating women's sports, and so he's really something. He's great. I mean, he's been really kind to me.
So you said something really interesting there as well. Man, you just keep giving such good prompts. The Republicans are kind of framing Democrats as anti-Semitic.
Right. Yeah.
Where does that come from? And is that like
maybe college campuses? There's like a lot of anti-Semitic stuff going on all over the country.
Yeah,
what I've seen.
Pro-Palestine stuff. How do you view that? I mean, that should be a big issue, I think, or kind of.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because traditionally, most Democrats have been Jewish, although not all, and there's a long history of certainly some of the wealthier Jews donating to Republican causes. But being pro-Israel has been one of the few things that has been truly bipartisan for most of Israel's history. And AIPAC, which is the lobbying organization that focuses on that, was one of the most bipartisan organizations out there. And in the last few years especially, but really since the October 7th attack, the amount of pro-Palestinian young people, and there are some that are just pro-Palestinian, that we are worried about what's happening in Gaza. We don't want this war to continue. And then there are some that feel like Israel itself should not exist.
Right.
When you hear that phrase, from the river to the sea, which is what they chant on some of the college campuses, that basically means there's no Israel.
Right.
Yeah.
That means Palestine takes up all the land and Israel is out.
Which party do you think is the majority of from the river to the sea? I'm Jewish too, right?
Yeah.
And to think that
I think most of the activists on the college campus are more left, far left. There are people in Congress that represent that. It is a minority of the Democratic Party. It is a minority
like
of
Ilhan Omar.
Like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, some of those folks. But that is not where the party leadership is. That's not where Kamala Harris has been. I mean, the people that are saying that she's anti-Semitic, it's like she's married to a Jew. I mean, I don't really get that. But it is a problem, and it especially is a problem in Michigan, which has a very significant population of Arab Americans who are frustrated with the way that the Biden-Harris administration has handled the situation in Israel. They are pro-Palestinian. A lot of them have said they're going to withhold their votes from the Biden-Harris team because they're frustrated by what's happening.
You would almost think that from the river to the sea would be a conservative ideology, though. It's interesting. Some of the most pro-Israel people are evangelical Christians because the Bible basically says that the Jews need to be in control of Israel for Jesus to come back. So if you really get into it, they really think that for them to, that they are very focused on that. And it has been kind of stunning how fervent the Republican support has become for Israel in the last few months. Where that's become a flashpoint. And that is the kind of thing that, quite honestly, especially Michigan is one of the most important swing states. Like, that could swing that state towards the Republicans, and that could be the reason that they lose the election. And when we head to the Democratic National Convention, which I'm going to in a couple weeks in Chicago, we could see extraordinary amounts of protesters from the left protesting the Biden-Harris record on that. And I will say, having covered Biden and Harris and been on the road with them, pretty much every single appearance that they go to, there are pro-Palestinian protesters slamming their position when it comes to Israel. She needs to really support Israel at the Democratic National Convention. I think that should be a big point of emphasis.
Well, she met this week with Benjamin Netanyahu, who was here, the Israeli prime minister. She chose not to preside over a joint session of Congress where she could have sat there behind him. She did her own private meeting, so she's kind of trying to have it both ways. But this issue is very complicated and nuanced because just because you're Jewish
doesn't mean that you necessarily support Benjamin Netanyahu.
Right.
And that issue, I think, has been confused. If you're critical of Benjamin Netanyahu, that doesn't mean that you're anti-Jew, and vice versa. But I think that because you could be Jewish and think, I support Israel, I think Israel has a right to exist, but I think it's the wrong policy to keep this war going the way that we're going, and that more should be done to try to help ensure that innocent civilians, including children, are not killed unnecessarily.
Yeah, what's going on is terrible for sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
No, you go.
One thing that I've noticed is I wish people were able to separate their view of a country's people with the government. It's like, there's no reason that you have to hate Israeli people or Jewish people because you don't agree with what the government's doing. Just like you don't have to hate me if you hate Biden. It's just, we are not our government. And the same thing goes for, other people in Palestine and everything. These Palestinian people are not Hamas, right? So it'd be nice for people to just separate that. It doesn't seem like they're doing it, at least from what I'm seeing online. There's just a lot of hate going around.
Right.
And judgment and blaming.
So much,
it's everyone's fault.
So much hate going around. And that's
It's a
totally
70-year war.
What?
If not more. It's a 70-year war, if not more.
Well, it's a several thousand-year war.
Yeah,
Right. That is the sort of cradle of civilization, and the fight over that land is probably the most contested land in the history of human civilization. So just because Israel was started in 1948, these fights were many years before
That's what
then.
I think.